Welcome to a Monday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder. And Bill, I hope you had a good weekend. I wanted to point out that I want to thank my friends over at New Era. They sent me some City Edition swag. I'm rocking the Rip City hat.
I saw. Oh, look at you getting the plug in early. I didn't get any of that, but I can give you, John, my address, and then I will also plug the hell out of it. I love free stuff. I love free stuff.
So I was going through the City Edition. Have you taken any time? I'm a big aesthetic jersey. I love when the new stuff comes out. And I was on I was on Blue Sky, not tweeting, but Blue Skying about the new jerseys and stuff. And they noticed and they sent me over a hat. So I thought that was nice.
We had this talk last week. Skying?
It's posting. The people who were there, the early adopters who were there, call it skeeting, and they're really hard into that. And then the new arrivals, like you and me and a bunch of other people, were like, well, that's bad, and let's not call it that. Let's just
going to be about flying, because you're in the blue sky.
I mean, these are all up for conversation. I think that's a better idea than what they originally adopted. But anyway, we encourage everybody to go and join us over in Blue Sky. We're having a good time over there. All right, later in the show, we're going to discuss the Inside the NBA is not dead. They're very much alive. They've got a new home. We'll talk about what was on our radar from the weekend radar, and we'll do team of the night. But first, Bill, All-Star changes this weekend. Shams reported that the NBA desperately wants this thing to be relevant. Adam Silver, as we know, loves to tinker, came up with a new idea, Bill, 4-team tournament. So there's going to be 3 teams of 8, plus the winner of the Rising Stars game. So that makes 4 teams. They'll all play each other in a tournament, and then there'll be a winner. Did they fix it?
No, but I commend the effort, and it's probably a futile effort. But maybe, by the way, the Rising Stars winner, you're going to get slaughtered. That'll be. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, man. You think pros want to? Maybe not. I don't think pros are going to want to lose to a bunch of young dudes. But here's what I will say: having covered 11 of the last 14 All-Star games, the 3 being the 3 I got out of, because I think the event subtracts from the sum of all human joy, especially in person. I'm assuming you've covered it too. It's an awful event. I think the moment I knew I couldn't do it is when in the celebrity game, Justin Bieber kept doing crossovers that actually weren't real, but his opponents were letting him go by him because he was Justin Bieber. And I was like, this encapsulates the entire weekend. It's phony and fake, and I hate the event. I think it's terrible, and I want it to be great. I want
me too.
It to be something that's interesting and have a celebrate. Because it would be cool to have a 3 or 4 day weekend where you can celebrate the sport and most of the guys are off and the focal points on it. So I wish it were a 3-on-3 tournament. That's what I would have. I think that would be much more likely to generate guys kind of being interested, or 2-on-2 and those competitive juices. I don't know if paring it down to 4 8-player teams, John, is going to make guys really go hard, but I'm here for trying.
I think the Rising Stars team might actually compete the hardest because they're young kids and they might want to beat the actual All-Stars. I'm not convinced that the actual All-Stars, though, the other 3 teams of 8, are going to try any harder than they have previously, which is not at all. I mean, nobody plays defense in this thing. Ant last year basically said, I'm not going to try hard, and he didn't. And it pissed off. Remember in the skills competition, it pissed off Wemby. So,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was a low. That's a nader. All right, here's my theory. Here's my theory on why it's broken. Okay, and I like LeBron. I'm not a LeBron hater. I really believe this. I think when LeBron James chose to never compete in the dunk contest, and because when Jordan would compete, not just Jordan, but everybody would compete and try to win that, it symbolized that the weekend mattered and the competition mattered. And even though it didn't really count for anything, going at it your hardest back in the day, back in the 90s, it meant something. And the moment, because the NBA it's a copycat league, and more than that, it's a follow the leader league. Whatever 1 or 2 guys define the game, define everything. And LeBron, I think, in a lot of ways, has changed the sport for the better. Player empowerment. There's a lot of things you can get into. But I think LeBron's refusal to compete in the dunk contest, sort of signaling this doesn't matter, this weekend doesn't matter, my brand is more important, not being embarrassed is more important. I think it was the first domino in what has become a weekend where guys don't want to put an effort because they don't want to fail. And the last like great moment that I can think of when the All-Star game sort of resembled what it was supposed to be was the Staples Center. When there was the Staples Center All-Star game where Dwayne Wade, broke Kobe's elbow. Do you remember this? Or broke his nose? Broke his nose. And of course it was Kobe Bryant was the last one to really compete. You got to find a way to make these guys give it, you know what? And until the stars do, it's not going to work.
Yeah, producer Aaron brings up a point too about just like logistically what happens if somebody is an all-star in the same year as a rising star, like Wemby, right? I mean, he has a
put him on the rising stars team.
I guess you just put him on. Well, I mean, if he's an actual all-star, though, I mean, doesn't that supersede being the other thing?
It should, but it'd be nice to bolster the younger guys because it would give them more of a fighting chance. If you take away the best rising star.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, to your point about the weekend and it like being important, the whole thing is like not like I want the skills competition to be good. It's not really. I want the dunk competition to be relevant again. It's not really. The game itself is horrendous. The only thing that's good is the 3-point contest, which scrap everything else. And by the way, it looks like Steph and Sabrina Ionescu are going to go at it again this year with potentially some friends. It looks like Klay Thompson might join Steph and Caitlin Clark might join Sabrina. You seem like you're wavering there. Maybe you don't like it.
What you just described sounds great.
Okay.
But I worry that we're going to wake up and it's going to become Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, where there's just going to be a different silly thing. You can only do that a few times, right? That is a cool extra. It's not a plan. It's not a plan long-term, I think.
Yeah.
That's
Are you telling me that the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight wasn't the event of the year that we all anticipated?
I hate myself that I watched it. The self-loathing.
Oh yes, we all do. We should all be shamed for watching that thing. All right. In better news, inside the NBA, Bill, we were worried that the greatest studio show of all time was going to go away after this weekend because TNT had lost its rights to the NBA. Well, great news over the weekend. TNT reached a deal with ESPN and ABC to put their product onto the other network so that Ernie and Shaq and Kenny and Barkley, they're all coming back. Now, there are a lot of questions here about how many nights will they have and like how much meddling will ESPN do. But on the whole, this is a win for all of us who love that show.
So I'm going to be the contrarian here. Look, I share your enthusiasm. I love the show. Here's what I think. ESPN doesn't deserve it. Like ESPN does not deserve to have it on their airwaves. I'm really bummed it's not Amazon or somewhere else. And there is proof of concept that ESPN can bring in somebody who is really big. Pat McAfee's not my cup of tea, but whatever. McAfee has been able to do his own thing, and his culture has superseded the ESPN culture. And I never thought I'd look at that as a positive, but I do in this context because you're right. Maybe they'll just let these guys do their thing. They're going to make fun of ESPN constantly if they actually have freedom. So I'm here for it if that's real. But by the way, I don't dislike Stephen A. Smith. All these haters in our business. I remember one guy who's a big NBA guy and a friend of mine who used to make fun of Skip Bayless by name constantly. And then he got on Skip's show as a guest and everything changed. So I'm not one of these, look, good for Stephen A. Smith, make your money. I think he's massively talented. I just don't want him on that show. I don't want any of those guys. So if it's actually inside the NBA and it is in a bubble and they package it and they do their own thing and they send it to ESPN and ESPN can air it or not, great news. I'm just highly skeptical that it's going to go that way.
I am glad that you brought up that they are likely to make fun of ESPN. I think that's true. And the reason I think that's true is because they've already gamed this out. Previously, they talked about, hey, what would it be like if we were an ESPN product? And this is what happened.
Why wouldn't you go to ESPN? Why wouldn't you go to ESPN?
That gonna work me like a dog about
I'm just saying.
The things that happen on this show. ESPN 1, 2, 3,
you know what?
ESPN News, ESPN U, ESPN Radio, and then come up with that little puny
Nothing. You wake up.
I'm telling you, nothing good happens after 1:15 in the morning.
ESPN Deportes.
They have me on ESPN Deportes and muy bien, gracias.
Muy bien, gracias.
It killed me. I mean, if they do that, last year, There's so many moments on that show where I just like I'm hysterically laughing. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard. Last year when the Fall Guy movie came out, they had an entire episode where they were just doing stupid stunts in the studio.
Yeah.
Like Ernie took a fake bottle and cracked it over Shaq's head. I'm like, what is this? It just that thing needs to exist forever. It's just too good.
Yeah, and you noted like the real question because I actually went and looked at the ESPN press release. Here's the other thing. Is it going to feel the same? I don't know if it's, and this isn't clear, but if it's only Christmas game, finals, if it's not every week, if it's not even once a week, is it going to feel the same?
That's a good question. So we don't know how many nights they're going to have. With the new deal, ESPN's got Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, at present, they've got their own studio show, and then they post-game for most of these nights, they've got SVP, Scott Van Pelt, who takes over like the beginning of his Sports Center segment, ends up just being whatever happened in the NBA tonight or that night. And SVP is really good at that. I mean, it's a really good post-game product.
He's outstanding. The other show is not out. Like, let's be like
it's,
the ESPN.
it's less good.
I'll say it. It's garbage. I think it's garbage. I think it's not very good. I think most people,
I'm talking about SVP. He's really
SVP's
good.
great.
I wonder, like, are they going to have pre and post? Are they going to? Is it going to? Yeah, I mean,
right.
These are questions. But on the whole, right now, when we thought we were going to lose them and they were going to go away forever, I'm just glad that they still will exist in some capacity moving forward. So I'll take a win.
It is good.
Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about actual basketball. There were so many things that happened this weekend. So we're going to do our weekend radar segment, things that are on our radar following the weekend. That's coming up. This is Beyond the Arc.
Canadian football's biggest game of the year. There ain't no party like a Grey Cup party on CBS Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can leave us a comment on this episode. If you look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, you can tell us what you think about the show or leave us a question. Weekend radar time, Bill. A lot of things happened this weekend. You and I take down little notes. We talk about things that hit our radar. You go first.
De'Aaron Fox. Holy cow. 109 points in 2 games. And look, this guy has been what's fair, fringe star? Is that the right
borderline all-star? Yeah.
Borderline all-star. I mean, 60 points, 49 points. Absolutely incredible. Really entertaining. That is a team that was, I think, really good or on the verge of being really good a couple years ago. Lost to the Warriors, if I remember right, in the playoffs. And then last year, just in a crowded West, this is going to happen to good teams. It's already happened. It's early, but happened to some other teams early on. Took a step back. It's nice to see their star player, and they've got DeMar DeRozan now too, right? So they've got some extra firepower and ways to close out games. But it's just nice to see a guy playing at that level consistently, and maybe they can be one of the surprises of the season.
Yeah, only the third player in NBA history to go for that many points in back-to-back games. Kobe did it, and then Wilt did it like 15 times. But I mean,
every record is like 2 Hall of Famers, and Wilt did it 103 times. It's that guy, man.
Yeah, De'Aaron, what a weekend for him. All right, while we're doing records, I'll throw this one out at you. James Harden, I was very interested to see whether or not you care about this. James Harden passed Ray Allen for second all-time in three-pointers made. Obviously, the volume of three-point shots now is at an all-time high. He's always been a chucker. This is the way the league's been going. Ray Allen did it in an era where that wasn't the norm. James Harden is just sort of like caught up in the movement, but still second all-time.
Yeah, so this is on my list too. This is on my radar. I have a couple takeaways. One is, maybe the most important is this is worthy of praise. Like, this is only behind Steph. Incredible accomplishment. The guy is obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's an amazing player. And have I given him enough credit to go to the he great player. But I think the main takeaway is just he is sort of the avatar of this era, and the fact that it's a volume 3-point shooting era. And at least when you look at those sorts of things, I don't think he's a better 3-point shooter than Ray Allen. It's just is he really? There's going to come a point where I think number of 3-point shots made is not going to be the best metric for assessing the best 3-point shooters of all time. And that's probably going to get lost in history. And you and I both are old enough. I covered Ray Allen. I was around him. I covered him day to day in Miami. this is not a shot against Harden. It's just a way in which the bombardment of the number of threes, because of how the math works, is going to overwhelm some guys who are really good at this and aren't probably going to be remembered the way that they should be because they just didn't take as many threes back in the day.
Steph Curry, by the way, number 1 on that list, 800 ahead of Harden right now. Producer Aaron wonders, if he finishes like 1,200 ahead of second place when he's all said and done, does that make it an unbeatable record? I don't know that it does because of the way that the NBA has changed. Somebody's going to come along and just be like an absolute cranker.
I'd love Aaron to look up right now how many 3-point shots Steph took his first 3 years in the league, but I bet it's not very many relative to what guys take now and what he has taken over the course of his career. So there's going to be at some point some guy who, even if he's 90% of Steph Curry, there's always the next, right? There's always the next star. And they're going to take
16 threes the other night.
Right. And he hit 8 of them. Guys are going to also take more and they're going to make more. And they're also going to more quickly, if you have a guy who can hit those shots in whatever way they do it, you're going to have the approach is going to be get that guy the ball and have him take threes. And Steph created this era, but he didn't arrive in the NBA and start taking 11 3-point shots a game, right? It was a process for him. So the only unbreakable record is maybe Cal Ripken in baseball's Iron Man. I don't think there are that many unbreakable records, and I don't think this is probably. I think this record will be broken. The question is it does the player arrive in the league 10 years from now or 30 years from now?
Yeah. All right, what else is on your radar?
So I had Harden. I'll go with your Houston Rockets, who, by the way, as we discussed, you tried to gingerly get off the Rockets bandwagon, but then you got back on. They've won 5 in a row.
Yep.
What are they, 3rd in the Western Conference, if I'm remembering this right? I'm not a notes guy. I'm a in my brain guy. There was a reporter in Arkansas once who was a cops reporter who pretended he had a photographic memory, wouldn't take notes, and got everything wrong. So I probably should take a few more notes. Everything. He's like,
that's very funny.
You don't have a photographic memory. And they put up 143 against the Bulls, which I know it's the Bulls, but just that offensive explosion was awesome, and they are still really fun to watch. And I know the West is going to shake out. It's way too early to make proclamations. I don't think the Mavs are going to be a 41-win team this year, right? They're at 5. But Houston making the case that maybe what we saw at the end of last year, that run that they made, was real and to a degree sustainable in the sense that maybe they're ahead of schedule, even by the standards of people like you who sort of saw them coming.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and then they stumbled a little bit out of the gate, and I was like, man, did I overshoot this thing?
Right.
Like, did I get too over my skis about Houston? And then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, they've righted the ship, and it's everything that I thought we were looking at last year, but they've really taken that step forward, right? I mean, it is a team that can beat you in so many different ways because, I mean, like on a night when, say, like Alperen Şengün doesn't have it going, oh, here comes Jalen Green, or here comes Fred VanVleet, or, oh yeah, Dylan Brooks is annoying the hell out of somebody, or, Tari Eason and Amin Thompson off the bench. And it's like, man, and it's part of the reason why I wasn't as bullish on Reed Shepherd being like an actual rookie of the year candidate this year, is just because like they have too many guys who are already really useful rotation players. And I was wondering about his minutes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, do you buy them as like a top 4 team going forward though? Because right now they're 3 in the West, and like the Suns fell off without KD. Denver's still trying to figure it out. Joker missed the last 2 games.
I think even top 6 would be 5 or 6.
That'd be a win.
That'd be a win. I was thinking about this over the weekend while I was watching them play Chicago. We always talk about trades, and rarely do trades benefit everybody in a big way. It's not a trade, but has there ever been a time when a contending team like the Celtics, in a very sort of public and shocking way, fire a coach who's a great coach in Ime Udoka, and it works for everybody?
Yeah.
Because Ime Udoka and what he's done with this young team is pretty exceptional. And if you were to sort of in a laboratory drop a coach, or you're going to draft a coach who could take a young group and get them somewhere quickly, it's Udoka. But Joe Mazzulla, who was on the hot seat a year and a half ago, less than that, is also now some weird, the town watching, bizarro genius. What a win for both organizations, which is crazy when you think about the fact that Udoka was basically shown the exit door for reasons that were suggested to be sort of untoward. and Missoula was basically an intern weirdo, and they're both thriving. It is nice to see both these guys be outstanding. It's worth remembering, at least for me, Udoka's a genius, and I thought that would be lost in Houston for a few years, and it's not. He's that good already.
They're kind of the way that he's set them up. They're kind of Celtics West. I mean, they don't have the same top line talent in the Jays, right? They don't have a Tatum or a Jaylen Brown, but that sort of redundancy, overlapping ability, and like depth that they have and how they play defensively, getting 3-pointers from anywhere. I mean, it's a system situation, but they have the players to do it. And also as an organization, they might have lucked out a little bit on the whole KD situation. They were linked to KD in the offseason and thinking like, oh, we've got the players, we've got the picks. You know, if the wheels come off in Phoenix again, maybe we go and grab KD. They kind of they could just keep their powder dry and see what happens with Milwaukee and like go into the offseason and then make a move then. I don't think they need to make a move even this season at the deadline.
Like the Thunder, right? There's always this temptation when you can go get a star that you should get a star, but it's the GMs who show the most patience, and not even patience, because Danny Ainge did this in Boston. When you just follow what you think, the guts to follow your own model, your own paradigm, when it's very different from 28 or 29 other GMs is really hard. But Ainge and drafting Tatum did that, and Preston and what he has done, and letting this Thunder team grow fairly now. I mean, Hartenstein's like a nice addition, right? And Caruso's a nice addition, but those aren't Hall of Fame players. Those are nice players who are big boosts to what's already there. And I think Houston doing the same thing makes a lot of sense. I will say this. I keep going back to this. I don't know that I've never heard that Giannis wants to go to Houston. But Giannis in Houston would be awesome. I think Houston's a team where I think A, it's a giant market, right? Unlike Oklahoma City, it's a huge city. B, there's no state income tax, and C, Udoka's so good. I do think like it's a big if, but if Giannis eventually forces his way out, Houston could go. I wouldn't go get anybody, but I would get a guy that's 30 or younger and a top 3 player. I wouldn't get Durant if I was Houston. Giannis is different.
I mean, I wonder what they'd have to give up to get him, though. I mean, it would be such a massive haul, right? I mean, like immediately you're unplugging one of those young guys, couple of those young guys. And, but yes, that would be an interesting fit. Not as good. Although the game itself yesterday was fantastic. Suns-Wolves yesterday was an awesome finish.
Oh my God.
Julius Randle, and we could talk about that too. Julius Randle.
What a hero.
A game winner. You and I have been down on him, but I wanted to just call out the Suns without KD. Had been 8-1, Bill, 1-4 without KD since then. Booker, who has offensively had like a little bit of a slow start to the season, he goes for 44. Not enough. They end up losing this thing. And ostensibly KD will be back sooner than later, and it's not like a significant injury, but 1-4 without him, not great.
It would be interesting to try to rank the least reliable superstars in terms of health, 1 to 5. I mean, number 1 would be Embiid. The thing about 100%. Durant is when we were doing our predictions on where teams are going to finish in the Western Conference, largely for me, I just went on their roster and what I thought would happen. The Suns are one of those few teams, and the Clippers too with Kawhi. It's not as severe of a concern with Kevin Durant, but he's not. He can play 70 games. He can play 45 games. It's really hard to get a feel for where he's going to be physically, and this is the reason it's so significant. I love Booker, and we talked about how good the Suns looked and how surprising they were, but they have to have KD. He was maybe the MVP early on, one of those candidates when they started on that torrid start. And when he comes back, they're going to be just as good, I think. John, he could come back and be mostly fine the rest of the year, or he could miss a bunch of games. And that's the thing about Kevin Durant, about the Suns. It's just hard to – I know how good they are now. I'm in. I buy it. I just don't know if Kevin Durant's going to be durable, because some years he is and some years he's not.
These injuries are totally bumming me out. It's just like such a rash across the league.
I know.
Aaron disagrees. He says Kawhi's number
Kawhi.
1.
I didn't even count him.
Number 2.
I forgot he plays.
He's technically still in the NBA. Fair. It really doesn't matter between those two guys, because it's like those two guys and then everybody else in the pack. But I'm with you that like KD is on that list somewhere, right? And where you go, last year he was pretty durable, pretty reliable, but that tends to be an outlier for him. And you're seeing what's happening now with him being out of the lineup. He needs to get back sooner than later because all of a sudden the Western Conference comes for everybody. Before we go to break, just because the Wolves did win that game, they have a little bit of momentum. They've won a couple games now. Any difference for you on Julius Randle going for 35 and hitting a game winner?
No. So because I'll say that no, because we know he can do these things. What would make a difference is if for 5 or 6 games in a row where this team plays really well and, compete and win these games, he looks like he's fully integrated into the team. And on the nights where he doesn't have the hot hand, he still is a piece that works. Sure, we can have that conversation. I know Randle he's not afraid to shoot, and he's going to make some of those shots. So
I thought after they had lost, 3 in a row, they lost 2 to the Blazers. The Wolves have won a couple. Yeah, those are bad losses. Although, with apologies to my Rip City hat, all of a sudden, I was like, okay, well, they won a couple games now. This is where the Wolves get going, right? And then I look at the standings, and they're 8-6, which puts them 7th in the Western Conference. I mean, it's just brutal.
The standings are
every single night
are shocking when you just sort of take a beat and look at them, like where the Mavs are. Yeah, it's.
While I have this Rip City hat on, Bill, Blazers 6-8. I mean, that's better than anticipated.
It is. I can't pretend I only watch Blazers games when they're playing against teams that I want to watch.
I'm the same.
Although I did see one of those wins though, because
I saw both of the Wolves games because I tend to watch the Wolves, but again, top tier City Edition gear. So full marks for them on that.
It does look good. But can I just say this? So you're one of these. So you'll wear, because I won't wear a hat. Like I'm the guy that walks around to LA and I'll see somebody in a Cubs hat. Like, oh, you Cubs fan? No, man. I like the hat. Like you can't wear the hat then. I philosophically feel differently than you do.
So especially back when I worked at a different place and I was traveling all the time for the NBA, whenever I go to an NBA city, I'll get a piece of gear from that city. So I've got
and wear it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got every team. I mean, I will not wear Celtics gear and I will not wear Knicks gear, but yeah, any other NBA gear. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'm just looking if it's ugly, I'm not going to put it on, but if it's cool, and it's they sent me a Grizzlies hat. I've got, shirts from Golden State or from Minnesota or whatever. Yeah. If it's cool, I'm absolutely going to rock it. Yeah.
I mean, Rip City is different because it's more about you're representing the city and not the team.
Right.
Like I love New York. My mom was born there. I've lived there. I would love to be able to wear a Yankees hat because I love New York City, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it either.
And this is a very specific NBA thing. Like I don't have NFL gear from other teams or hockey gear or whatever.
But you'd rock a Bulls jersey.
Not a jersey. I'm not a jersey guy. So this is for hats and t-shirts and to a lesser extent hoodies, but basically hats and t-shirts. Yeah. So there you go. And now we've covered my sartorial
sartorial.
My sartorial quirks. Yeah.
Wow, you're loquacious.
Proclivities. Here we go. All right, we're gonna take another break, and then on the other side, we will continue with Weekend Radar. This is Beyond the Arc.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc, John and Bill on a Monday. Just a reminder, you can find us on YouTube. Our handle over there is @BeyondTheArcCBS. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. There's a little bell symbol. If you hit that, you'll get notified when we go live. We go live Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. So be sure to come and join us. Weekend
we're doing a bonus show tomorrow, right? Bonus show. We're doing that
tomorrow. It's good thing that you mentioned that. Come and join us after Cavs and Celtics. Cavs are undefeated, playing the Celtics in the NBA Cup. If they beat the Celtics are effectively eliminated from the NBA Cup contention. But that's going to be a fun game that we've all had on our radar. So yeah, come and join us tomorrow after that game. Weekend Radar continues. Bill, give me another one.
All right, so I have one. I'm going to present it as a question to you.
Okay.
And you can take it where you want. Like, will the Sixers win another game this season? will your Sixers win again in this NBA season?
From what I understand, the NBA now only has 29 teams, and that the team in Philadelphia has been disbanded. What a disaster! Before we came on, there was a report from Shams that Embiid is doubtful for tonight against the Heat. They're playing the Heat tonight, which disaster. I mean, this thing is a
disaster.
Look. I was looking at it, and last year the Hawks I think were the last team into the play-in at 36 games. The different projection models to make it safe to make it into to the postseason into the play-in, you're looking at like 38 wins. They've got 2 right now, so you have to do something like 36 and 34 the rest of the way. That's doable, provided that Embiid plays. The question is, will Embiid play? And so far, the answer has almost always been no. So look, this thing is. I don't know what the worst case scenario is, but we're well past it.
I mean, okay, listen. All right, so you've got the Heat, but that's not a game that you feel great about in Miami, as you said, if no Embiid. Then you have Memphis. Then you have the Nets. Then the Clippers. Then the Rockets. I mean, you could be 3-11 or 12. So I don't like to overreact early in seasons, and I like to give it 20 or 25 games. And I may have written everything's gonna be fine for your Sixers.
Yeah, you did write that.
I did, and then the next day I got hit on the head when a piece of the sky that was falling in Philly struck me. It's disaster time, and yes. It's absolute. And like I like to sort of lean into given. And I'll get to this in a second. Doc Rivers a hard time and talking about Milwaukee. But when you sort of sit back and think about how the Bucks and the Sixers are both bad, they're both bad so far. It is as big a surprise as anything in the NBA.
Everybody keeps going, we'll wait until Embiid is out there regularly and Maxey and whatever. Okay, sure. I mean, I guess you could just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Here's what the reality is right now. They have the same record as the Washington Wizards. That's the reality. Like
that, dude, that is now you called this. Jared McCain looks awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's been fantastic. But once again, Sixers fans and the city of Philadelphia are going, well, at least this first round pick looks good. Let's pin our hopes to that. And this is a decade of this now. It's a decade of the Sixers just being like fail sons.
All right, so try not to. You're the Sixers, right? You don't want to give the season away. Obviously, you don't want to pack it up and go home. They have a plan. This isn't a secret, but they have a plan to continuously sit Embiid under the sort of guys, and maybe it's real if doctors saying he needs to. At this stage, isn't it worth considering redoing your plan where you just decide it's playoff time, or it's you play Embiid for the next 8 or 9 games, try to get close to 500 and then sit him for a while? Isn't there some adjustment that should be made to try and to what degree as a Sixers fan do you think there should be urgency? Because I think there should be a lot right now.
Oh, we're well past urgency. I mean,
and play him.
This one though apparently is an illness. So it's like not even related in theory to the injury in the knee and the whole situation about his body not being right now. It's just he's sick. And I don't know what you do if the guy has like COVID or the flu or a cold or whatever.
COVID, right. Play him.
Right. Like it's just, and here's the other thing. So I'm starting to see a lot of this popping up on Blue Sky where people will be like, well, what if they just tank and it's a gap year and they try to get Cooper Flag. The problem with that is they owe their first round pick because of Al Horford having to pay Oklahoma City to take Al Horford off their hands. They owe a first round pick to Oklahoma City. Now it's 1-6 protected, but that's such a hard needle to thread. Like if you screw that up and you tank your season and you lose your pick, that's an even bigger disaster than you've already got on your hands.
Yeah, well said. And let me add, Embiid's not 25. You don't, and I know he's fragile now, but you can't give away a Joel Embiid season.
He's giving it away.
I understand, but you can't tank a season. I mean, you can if you're going to move on from Embiid and see if you can trade him, but you're not going to do the thing about Embiid is if he plays and he's healthy. I mean, they almost beat the Knicks last year, right? If you go back to the playoffs with a hobbled. So I'm with you. There's no hope. I don't want to pretend there's hope, but just in an impartial way.
Can I ask you a question now?
Season with Embiid? Yeah.
Do you think that how many shows do you think we'll get to do this year where we don't have to talk about this stupid team? Because it's every day. Every day something dumb happens with this team, and we're like, well, add it to the rundown.
82-game season, playoff, two.
We do 5 shows a week.
It'll be a lot starting on April 13th.
All right, can't wait till April. The answer to that is John has been done for his entire life. All right, let me run this one past you because this is much happier occurrence from this weekend. LeBron James hit 4 straight triple doubles over this weekend. He's the oldest player ever to do that. Previous oldest player was Russell Westbrook at 33, Bill. He just did it at 39. First time in his career that he's done 4 straight triple doubles. We gave him all his plaudits and his flowers last week, but I just wanted to hit on this one more time. What a delight this season has been for him.
I'm not even sure what to say anymore. We did the same conversation when he got to 3 in a row and said the guys. I think for me the question is, and I don't know the answer, is I'm starting to be open to the idea that this is sustainable for the Lakers, that LeBron still being at this insane top 10 level, and Anthony Davis, who's been, by the way, fairly durable.
Buddy.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they look good. And you also, I think JJ has done a nice job. It's also, we're not that far into JJ's coaching career, and you would think based on the fact that he's new to it and that he's a very smart guy and he has LeBron support that he's going to get better when we get to 25 games and 40 games and 60 games. Maybe the Lakers are legit. I don't buy it, but I'm sort of being it's hard for me to believe LeBron can play at this level for 60 more games, 70 more games, and Anthony Davis can be healthy, but maybe I'm wrong.
For your skepticism component, I think that there does seem to be some regression to the mean here because the 3 teams ahead of them all have massive point differentials in the positive. They're +1, and then the Western Conference is just so janky that some teams that are behind them have better point differentials. Like the Memphis Grizzlies are 8-6. They're 1 game off the pace. A game and a half off the Lakers pace. They're +7.7. So it would, and that's with a lot of jaw games missed. That would suggest that the Grizzlies are due to course correct here and the Lakers might fall back a little bit. But so far, so good just from like a LeBron perspective. It's just been 1, he's having a great season, and 2, he's just been really enjoyable to watch play basketball.
Where would Ja be on that list of superstars who are unreliable because of after Embiid, but before everybody else? Maybe number 3?
I mean, last year, with the suspension was slightly different, but yeah, my thing with Ja is, he plays kind of like Embiid in that he's like Mr. Kool-Aid man running through the wall.
Yeah.
But he's so slight. Like Embiid's body is big and it fails him all the time. Ja is putting himself at risk every time he jumps in the air, which is a lot. Like he throws himself with reckless abandon through the air. And it's like, when he went up for that alley-oop that ended up injuring his hip and now he's on crutches. And like, I didn't realize he was on crutches until last week. I saw that play developing and I went, don't do it. He did it. And now he's out. It was just like, you could see it all unfolding.
You know what he's trending toward? He doesn't have the MVP. He's trending toward Derrick Rose territory is what I worry about, where you're this literally transcendent talent. Your physicality is a huge part of what you do. You're a stone cold winner. You can lift an organization up by yourself, but you're sort of showing us the warning signs that it's not sustainable. I mean, D Rose was so good, man, until he was not, until he was broken.
And I love watching Ja. He's probably my favorite player to watch in the NBA because he's so dynamic. So just from an entertainment standpoint, we all lose on that. But then also the Grizzlies could actually be onto something here. As I mentioned, their point differential signifies that they're a better team than their record. And like just having him out there and available on the court changes everything because his vision is incredible and it unlocks so many things. Let's do a couple more here.
All right. I'm just going to go back to the Bucks. Now, here's my thing on Milwaukee. So we talk about the Sixers. They are playing badly and they may be screwed, but Embiid can't stay healthy. Paul George's got to get integrated with guys that are on the floor. Tyrese Maxey's hurt. I know that Lillard has missed time, but I'm not convinced the Bucks are actually good. I mean, they are well under 500 since Doc Rivers took over. They were 30-13 when he took over. They beat Detroit. Was that last? Did we talk? I can't remember with my procedural. Anyway, they barely beat Detroit in a game that they should not have. And then they lost that brutal game where look, there's a bad call in that game and Doc Rivers loses his mind. You can't guess. Hey man, that's why you keep your challenge, right? Like keep your challenge for the end of the game. So there's still plenty of time. The East is bunched up. They can get right. They can win games. I'm just not convinced Milwaukee is good. And watching them over the weekend, nothing that I saw changed my leeriness about whether they're actually as good a basketball team when they're right and they're sort of playing together as we thought they were going to be.
And you can't change the coach. I mean, and Doc was complaining.
You have to change the coach.
In Doc's fairness, in fairness to Doc, he was right about the LaMelo thing.
Yes, he was. No, it was a phantom
he got
foul.
fined for. How do you feel about Doc complaining correctly about the referees and the league fining him for it? Because I think like everybody else is subject to scrutiny here, and they did screw up. And if I were an NBA head coach, I would be like, hey, these are the facts of the case here. They did miss that call. Last 2-minute report is going to confirm what I say. How am I getting fined for this on top of them screwing us over?
Yeah, but you can't do it. And here's the other reason. I understand the frustration. He knows he's going to get fined. Also, in the pool report, the official right away said, yeah, we saw it. We screwed it up. We didn't see it. And then the pool reporter said, if there'd been a challenge, it wouldn't have been overturned, and it was correct or whatever. So it was also like a little shot at Doc, right?
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
A little twisted of the knife. I don't mind it being fined. That's part of it. That's part of the deal.
While we are subjecting coaches to scrutiny here, I'm going to bring up Thibs. I don't know if you saw this. So the Knicks beat the Nets yesterday, right? Okay, you get a win in November. It's November, Bill. He played Hart and Bridges 45 minutes each. I went back and checked. There's only 48 minutes in a game. Then on top, I looked, confirmed. After that, OG, he played him 40 minutes. Bill, they play again tonight. I mean, like, okay, we love to everybody loves to joke around about Thibs and whatever, and like his commitment to this bit. But at some point, like, I don't know how in 2024, with the way that the NBA is trending towards, like, trying to make sure that guys are healthy and, like, yes, they want players to play, but something closer to 30, 35 minutes tends to be optimal as opposed to, whatever this is. How is this still possible?
So this was my last one on my radar thing too, because they entered that game 6-6, and it occurred to me, is there a world where Thibs is going to be so frustrated by their start, right? They are not this super team that maybe we thought they were going to be. Is he going to load up the minutes for the Nets, who are playing for nothing? The Nets are playing for nothing. Cam Thomas played the most minutes, I think, on that team, and it was 33 minutes. A team that doesn't even care is playing markedly less minutes for their guys than a Knicks team that has actual depth, right? And the panic against a team like Brooklyn. You're not playing the Celtics. You're not playing the Thunder where you're like, all right, we gotta put our guys out there. And so you're right. I had the exact same reaction. If you have to play, you have to load up multiple guys, some of whom have injury histories, 40 minutes or more to beat the Brooklyn Nets in November. What is going to happen in December, January, February, March? There are injuries coming, man. And I think it's a really good thing to be looking at.
On a back, I am fascinated to see how many minutes those guys play tonight. I think I already know the answer. It's going to be
38 to 42. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just wild that he keeps doing this and that nobody has been like taking him aside and been like, you can't, you have to stop. Like, this is going to be a problem because it's always been a problem.
Here's the thing, right? You are correct, and I am correct that it is a problem. And it is obviously not a good way to manage his guys and his team. And with OG last year in particular, we saw this. Are we the ones who are crazy to think he's going to change? I mean, this is who he has always been. And one of the things about human nature, especially for people who have massive success, is that, and I've known people like this, people who have massive success attribute everything they've done to that success, when in fact, sometimes there are still things that they should adjust, but they don't. I can, in our business in particular, I can think of two very famous media people who flamed out, who just crashed and burned in their careers.
Because drop the names.
I don't want to, because one of them I can't stand anymore. I would normally. You don't want this person's name on the airwaves, but like in a couple of these cases, we all saw this coming, and they just couldn't differentiate in their past what was great about their careers and what got them there to what was actually what was not great, but they were so good at the other stuff they were able to sort of get to a certain level. But the competition obviously gets higher and higher the more you succeed and the higher you get whatever your chosen field. He's not going to change.
No, he's not. He's definitely not. I don't know how, if you're the Knicks and you've put this team together, front office, Leon Rose, you put this team together, you have aspirations to get out of the East or at least really challenge the Celtics. And you look down and Thibs is just like running his guys into the ground in November. The season is not even a month old yet, Bill. And he's like, well, that's it. Just get out there and suck it up.
Put 13 games
dirt on it. Yeah.
13.
It's wild. All right, so let's wrap up with team of the night from last night or from this weekend. There's a lot to choose from. Who do you got?
All right, so I already brought them up, and I'm gonna go Rockets again because like the performances that they have strung together, and again, beating the Chicago Bulls isn't a huge thing, but whatever. To sort of lay their claim, you asked a legitimate question: can they be a top 4 team? To have that even be a consideration, I think, is a testament to how good they are. And if you go back to last year when they made that run at the end, they're one of the best teams in the NBA over a pretty big, sizable chunk of games. That usually is statistically significant. So give me the Rockets team of the night because they might turn out to be one of the teams of the year.
That's a pretty good one. I'm going to go chalk on this and just say Cavs because they're 15-0 going into the Celtics game on Tuesday, which we were all very excited about. And we're going to have, as you mentioned, a special edition of the show tomorrow after the game. Join us live on YouTube for that. Just as a bonus one here, I'm just going to throw this out there. We've talked about the Pistons being a little frisky. If they beat the Bulls tonight, it'll be just the 3rd time since 2020 that they've been 500.
That is crazy.
Yeah. They're 7-8. I mean, like those young guys starting to figure it out a little bit in Detroit.
What an indictment of Monty too. I mean,
it wasn't a good season last year. I mean, Asar Thompson got off to a hot start and he was like, nope, bring in Boyan. We're going to market.
Which pissed you off. I remember you were just like, what is happening?
I mean, it pissed off anybody who watched even 5 seconds of that kid play where you're like, he's good at a lot of things, not shooting, but like, why wouldn't you want the young guys to get out there? I don't know. All right. So that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to have a double show tomorrow. We're going to be back live at noon Eastern on YouTube. And then we'll be live after Celtics and Cavs. That's going to be a fun clash. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, I'm John Gonzalez. We thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.